Hey, I'm Bob at ILikeToMakeStuff. Today we're going to make some inset floating shelves. I want to thank Volusion for sponsoring this video. Volusion has an all-in-one e-commerce solution. If you want to start an online store, they have all the tools you need to do it. Both they can help you build the site, and they have a bunch of educational materials to help you get a business started. Volusion is doing a really cool thing right now called Stores and Stripes. It's for active US military, spouses, and veterans, and it's a way for you to get a business off the ground for $1 for a year. You get an e-commerce store, all the support, all that stuff. You give a $1 donation to Operation Homefront and they'll get you going. Be sure to check out Volusion. Thanks for sponsoring this video. Let's get to the shelves. I had some friends who wanted some floating shelves that looked like they were made out of a thick beam, about 2.5 inches. I started with 1x12 pine for the top and the bottom, but you could also use plywood for this. For the faces, I wanted to use pallet wood since it was going to be kind of a rustic look overall. I trimmed off one end and then cut it to length. And on the table saw, I ran it through just to knock off one rough edge. Then I ripped down 3 pieces at 2.5 inches to make the face of each one of the shelves. To match the thickness of the face, I needed to add some filler to the inside of the shelves. I cut down some 3/4 inch pine down into strips of about 1 inch thick. I cut down enough to be able to chop down sections so that I could put 4 sections inside of each one of the shelves. Then I just added some glue and laid them out. They don't have to be placed very specifically here, they just can't be on the ends. I held them in place with brad nails and then added glue to the other side. Then I laid on the top panel and made sure that all the front faces were aligned. I connected it all together with some brad nails. Covered all the front faces with glue and then added my actual shelf face. I used lots of brad nails to hold this in place. This whole thing is going to look very rustic and it's going to be stained. And so kind of the more damage you do at this point, the more realistic it looks. I used a rasp to just tear up this clean edge that I'd gotten from the table saw. I made a lot of dents and scratches and just kind of messed it up on purpose, and then I went back with an orbital sander and smoothed it out. I left some of the dents and the imperfections there, but I got rid of anything that would hurt you if you touched it. Now my friends wanted a really dark stain for this, and I was hesitant at first, but it ended up turning out really cool. It blended the different types of wood together between the pine and whatever it was on the face from the palette, and I thought it worked out pretty well. I'm not a big fan of staining usually, but I like the way that these look. The last thing to make were 2 more strips of pine for each one of the shelves. Then it was time for install. We marked the center point for each one of the shelves. I finally got to try out this new laser level from Leica. I made my marks and lined up the laser with it, and that made it super easy to transfer those marks to both sides of this inset. Normally an inset like this would be kind of a pain to get everything level, but this device was really nice. I'll put a link to it down in the description. For each one of the brackets, I transferred the marks onto a piece of pine, and then I drilled a hole right through the center of it. I made sure to transfer these so that I didn't accidentally drill through any grout lines. I wanted to make sure I was drilling into brick. I drilled the holes with a masonry bit, and then I attached the bracket with some Tapcon screws. Make sure you use the right size bit for the screws that you have. The opposite side was drywall, and I did basically the same process, but I used the pine to drill some pilot holes. Then I used a bigger bit to make holes big enough for the anchors that I was going to use. These anchors hold about 100 pounds a piece, so between 2 of them on one side and the brick on the other side, these shelves will be plenty strong. Then I screwed the brackets right into the anchors. Each one of the shelves just slides right onto the brackets. They were a little tight, which is a good thing, and I had to kind of jam them in place, but that made it so that there were no gaps on the outsides. If yours weren't so tight, you could run a small screw down through the top of each shelf into the bracket to secure it. So that's about it. They're really easy to make, and the size and shape don't really matter very much. You could make these a lot thicker if you wanted to. You could even make them skinnier if you really wanted to. The big thing is making sure you have a strong enough cleat on the side to hold up the shelf and whatever weight you're gonna put on top of it. I hope you liked this one, and if you did, let me know in the comments down below or at ILikeToMakeStuff.com. I'd love to see some stuff that you're working on, so please share it with me on any of the social networks. I've got a lot more projects and playlists and stuff for you to check out, as well as a couple of other types of floating shelves. If you like these videos and you wanna help support what I'm doing, Patreon is the best way to do that. You can click there and find out everything you need to know. Thanks to Volusion for sponsoring this video. I'll see you guys next time.